Welcome back, guys. Week 7 of the season is in the books, and we have made a statement as we picked up a primetime win against the New York Jets. Before we get started, remember to like, comment, subscribe, turn on notifications down below, and let's get straight into talking about what happened in our last game. We knew we needed to get our momentum going after such an ugly game a week ago, and we did that this time around as we came away with a 31-3 victory as we seemed to dominate on both sides of the ball to keep us undefeated. So now let's take you through the story of this game to see how this all went down. The Jets would get the ball first, and that meant they would be let out by the man given a second chance, Zach Wilson. He has struggled all season long, proving that he is the starting quarterback they should have stuck with all along after their failed Aaron Rodgers experiment, but he struggled once more today as he could not cross the 200-yard mark while throwing 41 times. They would end up stalling on their initial drive, so after a 3-and-out, it would be our own Kyler Murray who would take possession. And he had a very nice day for himself as a passer, as he did throw for over 300 yards and tossed in 2 scores, though we should not forget he did throw another 2 picks as he continues to struggle with giving the ball away. And it wouldn't take him long to get his team on the board as he would hand off the ball to Cordero Patterson, who would reward a very impressive initial drive from the Arizona offense as he would scamper into the end zone untouched from 6 yards out to find the early lead. And this is when our pass rush would start to make their presence felt, as it would be the pair of Bryce Huff and Michael Allison who would combine for the first sack of the game, and this would just be the start of their incredible efforts as the two would combine for 7 TFLs, with 4 of them being sacks. So another 3-and-out was forced, and that is when Hollywood Brown decided it was his time to shine, as he brought in this grab to start the drive, which he would take for 17, and then he would follow that up by bringing in this massive reception, which he would rush all the way to the end zone for our second score of the evening. And that would mean on just those 2 plays, he would not only secure himself a touchdown, but also put up 56 of his 82 yards on the day. As the ball would go back to New York, they would start to find some life as it would be Michael Carter stepping in as the starting back in relief of the injured Breece Hall, as he would become involved through both the air and the ground, as he would end up putting together over 80 yards all-purpose. But this drive would fail as well, as with Huff bringing pressure from the middle, Zach Wilson would be forced to run straight into the path of BJ Ojulari, who would come away with a sack on the play, with 2 more to come further along in this one. And why stop there when you can go back to back, as it would be the young Cameron Thomas who on the very next play would also find his way home, as he would drop Wilson in the backfield to secure another punt as a defense. We would be unable to reward them, however, as just a few plays later it would be Ronnie Harrison who would come away with a critical interception off a very questionable decision from Murray as we came to the end of the first quarter. But we would not fail to start the second quarter with a bang, as on just the second play after the break, it would be Khalil Mack who would get home to make the big-time sack, which would be just the start of his 3.5 sack day, which we will continue to discuss throughout. And then 2 plays later, it would once again be the rookie Michael Allison who would get to Zach Wilson, this time for his first solo sack of the game. We would then end up trading punts, and then as New York began driving again, Ojulari would fly in against Wilson as he was trying to escape to drop him for the second time of the day. Even with this, we still couldn't break away, as it would be Sauce Gardner who would make a superstar play to come away with the second pick of the day on Murray, as he jumped the pass while also keeping the feet in bounds, and he put his squad in prime position near midfield. And just when their offense looked like they could build something, that is when our pass rush would show up once more, as Bryce Huff would put Wilson in the dirt once again to knock them out of field goal range and force them to punt once again. The Jet defense wanted to join the pass rushing fun, as well as it would be Quinnen Williams, their dangerous defensive tackle, who would rock Murray so hard the ball would get knocked loose, but we would jump back onto it to retain possession as he went into the 2-minute warning. And in those final 2 minutes, we got our explosive moment from none other than KJ Hamler. Going off no huddle, he won his matchup off the line, and he would bring in a long ball, which he would take all the way into the end zone to put us up by 3 scores and put himself over 100 yards receiving in just the first half. After we would get the ball back late, disaster would strike by the way of John Franklin Myers and Carl Lawson, as the pair would meet at Murray, and Lawson would punch the ball free. It would be Tim Settle Jr. who would dive onto the loose ball to not allow a second fumble to be wasted, as they would secure the turnover with phenomenal field position. That field position would quickly be tested as the pair of Mack and Huff would combine for yet another sack to back them up to the 28. But then their rookie kicker, George Cameron, would trot out and nail a 45-yard field goal to put his team on the board as he moved into the halftime break. Early in the second half, Tyreek Stevenson would attempt to make his presence felt as he would force a fumble following a catch from Lazard, but Garrett Wilson would swiftly jump back on top of it to retain the possession. Then the game would begin to settle in a lot more as the Jet defense would begin to make it very tough for us as the pair of Jordan Whitehead and Quincy Williams would begin to find themselves on the end of almost every single play. As by the end of all the action of this game, the two would combine for just shy of 20 tackles. And they truly needed it because this was just when our running game started to get going, as well as James Conner would end up taking the most carries out of all of our backs, where he would average 4.5 per, and when it wasn't him, it was Tyson Williams, our breakout running back from a season ago, who would be even more productive on just 7 carries, with his biggest being this one where he would escape the messy area and take the perfect angle to find the end zone to secure our 4th touchdown of the night. Nothing would budge from this point as we would begin to trade punts with one another. The following Jet drive would be ruined as Ojulari would fly in for his 3rd sack of the game. Our own Zach Ertz would get called on a tough holding call to halt our progress. And then we would near the end of the 3rd quarter with Mack crashing in with a blaze of speed to find his 3rd sack of the evening as well. Towards the start of the 4th, our rookie kicker Nate Garfield would get the chance to try a field goal from 38 yards out, which he would nail, and that would keep him perfect on the day with his 4 extra points as well. The remainder of the game didn't have much notable change in the scoreboard, but Tyler Conklin would find his rhythm late as he would begin to be one of the only players making positive gains at this point as he would cross the 50-yard mark receiving. And to respond, our own Garrett Williams would get aggressive, fighting to the end of every play, finishing with a team-leading 11 tackles on the game. And to close this one out, on the Jets' last drive of the game, Mack would fight around the tackle to find the 11th Cardinals sack of the evening, and then on the very next play, he would force the errant throw on 4th down to force a turnover on downs that would end this game. After all the action, we received a text from Michael Allison, and he said, "Roll out the red carpet, baby, because he has arrived." He asked if we saw him out there, and yeah, he is an absolute anchor for our defense, and I couldn't agree more, as with that, he has now earned a star development trait, helping him grow even faster than before, and that would earn all of our D linemen 5,000 XP. We were also notified that one of our practice squad players had been signed to another team, and when we went to investigate it, we learned that it was our 2nd-year middle linebacker, Owen Popo, out of Auburn, who was picked up by the Tennessee Titans. And although he only finds himself as the 3rd-string guy, he does have the potential to make a name for himself there, so we do wish him the best in Tennessee. In response to that, we knew we had another practice squad spot to fill, so we went into free agency and we ended up signing the rookie receiver Josh Pendleton out of Southern Illinois. As we advanced the week, we also received the 2nd version of the mock draft, which has a lot of interesting details to discuss. The Titans are projected to have the number 1 overall pick, and Owen Popo's newest teammate looks to be defensive end Deion Goodson out of Florida State. Our division rival Rams are having another rough year, projecting them to have that very next pick, and with it, they are aiming to take right tackle Denzel Drayton out of Wisconsin. And just after that is the team we lost the Super Bowl to just a season ago in the Kansas City Chiefs, who are primed for that number 3 pick as of now, which means they must not be having the best season as of this moment. But with that pick, they look to also be stirring up their O-line with them taking tackle Ricky Jackson out of Tennessee. We failed to find another of our division rivals until all the way down to number 24, as San Fran looks to ramp up their secondary as they are projected to take corner Darren Rivers out of Auburn. Our last division mate in the Seahawks also looks set on improving their secondary as they have their eyes on safety Kirk Lincoln out of Virginia at 29. As of now, we are once more projected to be the runner-up for the Super Bowl, and with that 31st draft position, also take a safety, with ours being Daniel Ridley out of Ohio State. And lastly, the currently projected Super Bowl champion Cincinnati Bengals are believed to be going running back with Mantra Springs out of Florida State. Now we can look back at some of the other matchups that happened throughout the league, starting with the 49ers, who were upset on the road by the New Orleans Saints at the very last moment. San Fran would start with the ball first, and they would capitalize on their opening drive as Brock Purdy would involve George Kittle early, as he would go for over 50 yards on the day. And then he would scramble into the end zone to pick up a rushing touchdown to start the game. And then their defense would get off to a great start as well, as Arik Armstead would wreak havoc in the backfield, ending with 4 TFLs on the day. Eventually, the second quarter would begin, and New Orleans would respond as halftime neared by pounding the rock with their rushing pair of Javonte Williams and Alvin Kamara, who would combine for over 100 yards. And then, as they reached the goal line, it would be the rookie QB Rashad Pickett who would get the ball across on the sneak to bring the game back even. They would ride this momentum all the way into the break, but they had no answer in the third quarter, as they would begin to feed Christian McCaffrey the ball, as he would total 91 on the day, averaging over 5 yards a carry. And then Purdy would cap off the drive by tossing in a score to Brandon Ayuk, which would give them the lead back once more. The Saints struggled to get anything going for the remainder of the third, but then early in the fourth, when they needed something to go their way, their kicker Chris would nail a 51-yard field goal to move the margin to just 4. And then disaster would strike San Fran, as Elijah Mitchell, while attempting to run out the clock, would fumble after being absolutely rocked by Marshawn Lattimore, who would scoop it up himself, and they would be rewarded as Pickett would find Kamara to give them the late go-ahead touchdown. The Niners would work with limited time and set up Jake Moody for a field goal attempt from over 50 yards out, but it would go just wide, allowing New Orleans to take the W. And in our next game, it was a big one for us to watch, as 2 of our division rivals went face to face, and it would be the Rams who would travel up to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. LA knows they are one of the biggest underdogs in the league, so they decided to bring the fight early, as their rookie quarterback Curtis Atkins would dominate the opening drive, slinging the rock all over the yard, and he would end up handing the ball off to another rookie and fullback Garrett Walker to give them the opening drive touchdown. The Ram defense would get going early as well, and after a 2-sack first quarter from Aaron Donald, Brandon McManus would get set up in solid field position, and he would nail his first field goal try to make it a 1-score game to end the quarter. Moving into the second, both teams seemed to be at an absolute stalemate at this portion of the game, and it was defined by great defensive performances such as what Jordan Brooks put together, as he would finish the battle with double-digit tackles. But McManus would hit his second kick of the day as time expired to put them up by 13 to end the half. Seattle would get the ball after the break, and Geno Smith would start to get his offense moving after not showing much earlier on. And he would find old reliable and Tyler Lockett, who would punch in a touchdown score to get them on the board and show some life. LA would respond by getting the ball into the hands of their offensive key in Cooper Kupp, as he would end up totaling 90 through the air and allow McManus to get back in range for his third field goal of the day. After halting the Seahawks once more to begin the fourth, the Rams, with victory in sight, would begin pounding the rock with Cam Akers to tire them out and wind down the clock. And it would once again be the MVP of this game, Brandon McManus, who would knock home his 4th kick of the day to move the score to Rams 19, Hawks 7. So with time running out, Geno would start to display his clutch gene, as he would get the offense going, and nearing the end would sling in a perfect ball to Matt Landis to give them a shot at the comeback. So they would then line up for the onside kick, but they would be unsuccessful, allowing the Rams to come away with the road win. It was then time for us to look at some of the news headlines from around the league for this week, and we will start with the biggest upset of the week, as the Super Bowl champion Chiefs, who have gotten off to a pitiful 1-5 start to the year, would end up blowing their lead late to allow their division rival to steal a 1-point victory in Arrowhead. Las Vegas wasn't the only team to find something to celebrate, as it would be Indianapolis Colts who would embarrass the Vikings' run defense, as it would be X-Factor running back Jonathan Taylor who would punch in a dominating 3 rushing scores. But when there is good, there is also bad, and the bad news went the way of the overperforming Giants squad, as Kayvon Thibodeau would leave the field during the game with an injury, which the team declined to comment on at the time. But we have now received word that he suffered a ruptured disc and will be keeping him out for the next 4 games. And lastly, another division rivalry went down in the NFC North, as it would be the Chicago Bears who would come away with a narrow 24-21 victory over possibly their greatest rivals in the Green Bay Packers. And this could bode well for us, as we can now prepare for our upcoming matchup as we get set to take on those recently defeated Packers as they travel down into our house. But even with them coming off a loss, they are a very young team with a ton of potential, and we should now take this time to pay attention to what they have to offer against us this week. We'll start with discussing the game they had against Chicago previously. It looks like their rookie running back Christopher Wheeler had no problem with productivity, as he would average 4.5 yards per carry, but they would fail to finish off drives with poor mistakes like Jordan Love losing the ball on a scramble after a hit from rookie linebacker Demarius Beard. They also seem to struggle with halting the Bear rushing attack, as the pair of Dalvin Cook and Justin Fields would combine for over 120 yards with 2 touchdowns from Cook. And they also got exposed on big plays like when Darnell Mooney broke away with an 80-yard touchdown grab. Love would get this back on track as he attempted to lead a fourth quarter comeback behind his 250 passing yards, and he would end up tossing in 2 scores to Jonnu Smith and Christian Watson respectively. But then as they pushed for the score to tie this one up, he would end up throwing an interception to Eddie Jackson, which would end their chances at the win this time out. Moving to the injury reports, we are still without our left guard Elijah Wilkinson, as he needs 1 more week as he continues to rehab his abdominal tear. And for the Packers, they are also dealing with a huge injury as their superstar defensive tackle Kenny Clark has been ruled out of action this week with a hip pointer, but he is hoping to be back next week. But now, let's focus on who we will be squaring off with this week, and this team is defined by their frightening defense, which is headlined by Jair Alexander. He is the ultimate shutdown corner for them as he eliminates the opposing team's best receiver every week, and coming off his first interception of the year against the Bears, he will be looking for his next from us. And on the front lines, pressuring the pass before it gets to him is, of course, Rashawn Gary, their star outside linebacker. Currently playing his 6th year in Green Bay, he is a true star as he just displays such power on the edge and gives the opposition no chance at holding him back. And he is not alone, as the inside linebacking position is held down by their defensive captain, Devondre Campbell. One of the most experienced guys they have on that side of the ball, he is able to do it all, whether it's playing the pass, crashing in on a blitz, or finding the ball carrier and putting him down, which led him to being the top tackler in the league just a season ago. And he would love to double that metric this year. And developing under his tutelage is, of course, Quay Walker. The 24-year-old out of Georgia has a very similar skill set, and while he may not be at the level of Campbell quite yet, he has all the skill and potential in the world, and he has nothing to ignore as he can make those big plays when needed as well. On the offensive side, a lot of their leadership comes from their veteran tackle, David Bakhtiari, a guy who has dominated in this league for over a decade, earning multiple All-Pro nods, and he is essential to this team's success. And right next to him is another talented player to hold down that left side of the line, as it is Elton Jenkins holding down the guard position. They do an incredible job communicating throughout the game and working together to keep the pocket strong, and they will definitely be ready for the test that we present to them. And when the two of them are holding strong, it allows their superstar running back Aaron Jones to strut his stuff. The 29-year-old is truly incredible, becoming involved in both the run and the pass every single week. And when he gets the ball in his hands, he is so hard to get a hold of. And coming off the touchdown last week, he'll definitely want to find another when they face us. Overall, as a team, their passing attack is extremely young with a lot of unproven potential, which could break out at any moment. But the true strength of their offense will lie with running the ball to the left side with the veteran blocking presence and explosive ball carrying ability. Defensively, the Packers will likely struggle to create pressure without Clark, which could give us some opportunities with longer timed throws, but their secondary and linebackers can make us pay for bad decisions extremely quickly. Now moving on to our game plan. Starting on defense, we're going to focus on defending the outside run. We know they are most dangerous when the elusiveness of Jones gets going, so shutting that down quickly should give us our best shot at success. And on the offensive side, we are going to look to run the ball inside. We hope to take advantage of the Clark injury and avoid the pressure from the edge. And a successful run game will hopefully open up a productive play-action game. And we now can move on to our game day goals for this upcoming matchup. First, we want to win the turnover battle. We know we have struggled with interceptions despite our dominance, but if we can force this young team to make those mistakes instead, it should put us in the best position to find the win. Next, we want to put up 350 plus offensive yards. Simply, we need to continue to show why we are the most explosive offense in the NFL, and that means big plays with a lot of yards every single week. After that, we want to allow 20 points or less. We can respect that this Packer offense is capable of making some things happen, but we do need to lock in, and keeping them under that 3 touchdown mark should give us the cushion we need to get the best of them. And lastly, we want to sack the QB 5 times. We completely obliterated Zach Jones in our last game, and we are ready to bring that same level of pain to Jordan Love this week. We then proceeded through training throughout the week, and we unfortunately did not escape unscathed, as our young outside linebacker Cameron Thomas suffered an ACL sprain, and out of an abundance of caution, we will be naming inactive for this upcoming matchup. However, we did have a lot of positive growth, starting with the reigning Defensive Rookie of the Year, B.J. Ojulari. He put together yet another dominating week, getting to the QB time and time again. And this week, he got even better at first improving his awareness, finesse moves, pursuit, and zone coverage. And then he further ended up improving his block shedding as well. On the other side of the line, our own Paris Johnson also had a big week for development as he continues to do a phenomenal job keeping Murray safe off the right side. And this week, he improved in his awareness, pass block, and specifically his pass blocking against finesse moves. Back to the pass rushing though. One of our most dominating players in Bryce Huff stepped up as well, putting in the work on the practice field. And this week, he ended up further developing his agility, awareness, finesse moves, pursuit, and tackling. Then we had two separate instances of secondary improvement, starting with our number one corner, Marco Wilson, a guy who is in charge of locking down the enemy's top receiver, and today, he got even better in his awareness, man coverage, play rec, and tackling. And then our second secondary man to find improvement was our offseason trade acquisition, Tyreek Stevenson. He is one of the more notable guys having a more up and down season, but today, he did grow in his awareness, man coverage, play rec, and tackling. Development was expected to come, but it's still exciting to see, coming from our number 2 overall pick, Michael Allison. He has done well to prove why we had the faith to draft him that early, and he continues to prove us right as he improved in his block shedding, power moves, pursuit, and tackling. And last, but certainly not least, another rookie in Gary Fordham. We spoke about how huge Paris Johnson has been, but Fordham has been phenomenal as well, working off the left side of our line. And this week, he continued to improve in his impact blocking, strength, run blocking, and took extra focus on both pass and run blocking against power moves. And with that, we have discussed everything we needed to for this week. If you guys enjoyed, remember to like, comment, subscribe, turn those notifications down below, and I will see you all next time as we return home to take on the Packers.